a playlist original.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster. And I'm joined again by my homie Owen, who was out here last week.
Finally back. Adult life caught up to me last Monday, so finally back and ready to get started. Talk about some good stuff today.
Yeah, we had to. The good thing though is that when we have to like pivot and stuff, we have like people we can rely on to kind of tag in. And Jack tagged in for Owen last week. He was already scheduled to be on this episode anyway, so we just gave him a little head start, I guess.
Thanks for the backup, Jack.
Oh, so yeah, man, you know, you gotta call it. It's like calling Ron Gidgey from the '76 bullpen. It's gonna be awesome.
But also this week we're gonna talk about some new stuff at the top of the episode. It's gonna be pretty light, but because the main focus of this episode is that Zodiac is David Fincher's Zodiac is celebrating 15 years on March 2nd, which is when this episode will drop. So that's going to be the majority of the episode, is talking about basically everything we can talk about it. Like the development process, casting, you know, what we liked, what we didn't like, how it stands up today, how it stands up with David Fincher's other films. So it's going to be a nice little deep dive, similar to the ones we've done before, but it's a special anniversary episode for this film. But we wanted to actually add more people than just us to talk about it, who are fans of the film as well. I already mentioned Jack. Jack was on last week, and he was on our Spider-Man episode. He's actually one of Owen and I's friends, so he's a friend of the podcast, but also a big movie fan.
Good company.
So we're in good company. And so he was willing to be on this one, which we were very excited about. And then we actually have two other people on. We have William from who I know from just G-Reels via Film Snob Reviews. He asked to be on because he's a fan of the movie as well. So welcome to you, William.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, of course. I run a website called filmsnobreviews.com, and you can follow us all over social media at the same exact name. And I guess, is now the time to plug everything? Is now when I do that?
Yeah. Go ahead. Get it all out. Get it all out.
Go for it, man. Go for it. John.
Yeah.
So
we also have a podcast called the SnobCast that we do every month. We're going to be our last episode. We had the very lovely and talented Don Shanahan from literally all over the internet on there, and we were talking about movies that are rotten on Rotten Tomatoes that we think got a bad shake. You guys can check that out on our website, Spotify, iTunes, all the places you can watch that stuff. It's on there. All of our images are custom made. We'd love to have you guys over there, and make sure you're following me, because if you're not, you're missing out, because you know Sundance stuff is hitting up now, and South by Southwest is next week.
Oh, nice.
We'll be there.
Oh, very cool.
Covering stuff.
Gotta head over to Film Snob.
That's right.
Yeah.
FilmSnobReviews.com, dudes. And, you know, I mean, I must be pretty smart, because they only invite really smart people on this podcast.
The highly intelligent, except for Jack.
I was gonna say, I'm pushing the limit.
Yeah.
I'm pushing the limit. The sucker 18 weekend really tis a pushing that.
His brain power mat is only at max capacity on Saturday and Sunday, guys.
Exactly.
My brain turns off on the weekends.
I think all of ours does, actually.
All is definitely off this weekend.
Well, also joining us too, who's also been a follower as well. We have Mary on, and Mary is just a movie fan and actually loves this, which is like the best kind of person to have on, because like the whole concept of this show is that like I work in media and Owen is just a casual moviegoer like yourself, so he's just a movie fan in general. So it's good to have you on as well as a movie fan, and just as someone who is a fan of this film. So thank you for being on too.
Can't wait to hear your opinions and see if you and I have the same sort of taste and as an audience member. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you, Mary.
So it should be good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. So before we get into some stuff, just because we've talked about the Oscars and stuff a lot on the show, and it's going to be coming up at the end of March. By default, the SAG Awards became like the first big award show of the season, because even though the Golden Globes did happen, they've taken a lot of heat, so they really get a lot of attention this year. So the SAG Awards were like the first big award show to happen, and they're kind of like they're a little bit of a precursor to the Oscars. Like sometimes they can kind of predict where like things are gonna go. But I do want to say, just for people that don't necessarily know, the SAG Awards are basically voted on by members of the Screen Actors Guild, and has more to do with like performance than like the movie or as a whole or something like that. So like when you see something winning the ensemble award, it's more about like the cast as a whole rather than like the film itself as a whole. But still, the ensemble award, surprisingly to some, it went to Coda. A lot of people thought that it could have been Belfast, or a more starry affair like Don't Look Up, or an even more starry glitzy affair like House of Gucci. But that didn't happen. Coda won the ensemble award, and it's the first film with a predominantly deaf cast to win that award, which is a pretty cool thing. And also Troy, I don't want to mess his name, Kotzer, he's in the film as well. He won best supporting actor for the movie, and the first deaf actor to win in that category as well. Speaking on that film in general, just because Apple spent $25 million to acquire it after Sundance, it was quietly like kind of in the conversation for a bit. It was just kind of off in the corner, and like this kind of like gets it kind of further into the discussion a bit. It is a smaller film. Apple had a lot of faith in it by spending that much money on it. Just speaking on that film in general and it winning, like, what do you guys think of its chances now, like kind of going to the Oscars now that it has this kind of big win behind it?
Yeah, I think that the fact that it has some critical nominations now and some looks at it now, the way I really thought about it was there hasn't really ever been a film like this ever made before. And so when something like this comes out, it can either be received one of two ways, which is a lot of critical nominations and just kind of presence, or it can be said, hey, that was a miss. There's a reason a movie like this hasn't been made before. But I think that something like this is there's such a large community of deaf and hard of hearing people that we really don't really see being presented in movies a lot. And just because it's such a visual and audio and very audio kind of type of medium. Yeah. So I think that having something like this is really stepping outside the box and really has a chance to not only people more associated with that type of criteria, but I mean, the acting was really, really well done. And I just think that it was such a great story that is actually being recognized now. So I totally think it's going to have a good chance at the Oscars. Yeah, I think so too.
See, my thing is like what we were talking about last week, guys, with like the Oscars or whatever. I think the SAG, it is voted by the Screen Actors Guild. Like those are like the people who really like the films, like the film for the film. So I don't think it's going to have as much legs going into a more mainstream, even though the SAG is obviously mainstream, but like at the same time, like everyone gets stacked. Like my friends, I have plenty of friends, dads and moms who are all Screen Actors Guild members, get all the screeners and stuff. So I just think that in mainstream, Coda, this movie specifically, won't have the backing that it would with SAG that it will have with the rest. But that's just my opinion on the fact that the Oscars is mainstream.
Right. Can I make a point to Jack's point, because he makes a great point.
Yeah, sure.
So, two things. First of all, the Screen Actors Guild, obviously, it's all actors. That doesn't include producers and all those other things. And I think that's where the Oscars are going to end up getting swayed, is by the producers and all the other guild, Directors Guild, for example. Likewise, I read an article today in the Hollywood Reporter that was talking about Coda. And I did want to mention, it is not the first of its kind. There's a film that came out in 2016 that was a Ukrainian film that's called The Tribe. The film is deaf. There's not a single dialogue. It's all in Ukrainian sign language. Okay. It's amazing. It's an incredible film. You guys should check it out. Yeah. This is what I'm here for, man. It's an incredible film, man. You should definitely check it out. It's really good. But Troy Kotzer is probably the front runner for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
And I think that's well earned. A movie like this, in the way that it is, deserves the recognition it's getting. It won't win the Oscar for Best Picture. I think something more flashy, like you mentioned, is probably going to steal something like Power of the Dog. Even though I thought that movie was B plus mid personified.
I like it.
Main champion only goes one speed, and that's the first gear.
And that's slow.
The rest of the gears don't exist on her car. The piano is a sleep-inducing nightmare. I want to say I hope that these are not a precursor, because I don't think they got any of the acting awards right. Because I don't think Will Smith is the best actor in a motion picture this year. It's going to go to I want it to go to my boy Andy Garfield, because
that's who I want to win too. Yeah, that's what I want.
Was my favorite film of last year. Period. End of story. It's the best film I saw last year, and I saw over 300 of them.
Damn.
His performance in that film is similar to Bradley Cooper's, and they ended up giving it to a guy who did a cosplay of Freddie Mercury that year. So I don't have any faith in the Academy, but I just didn't like Will Smith's performance. I found the script was a little bit too straightforward for me, and I didn't think his performance evoked enough emotion. I thought his performance in Concussion a few years ago was a lot better than this one, and he's getting Oscar nominated again for something that's not that great. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is the only thing standing between him and between Andy Garfield and that. As for Best Supporting Actress, I don't think Jessica Chastain has a chance in hell, but she's incredibly good. That's not to say that movie's not great. She's not great in it. She's great in the movie, and it's great. But also that movie is also indicative of how good Andy Garfield was this year, because he's in that movie too.
He had a great year.
You know, along with being in Spoderman. If you haven't seen the damn movie, spoiler alert, I don't care.
Yeah, right. Before I jump to Mary, I want to ask you, do you think that the Will Smith win is more of like a career thing? Like they're just like it feels like it could be more like, and if he does win the Oscar, do you feel it's more like a career thing for him rather than like?
But the point is, I don't think his career has earned that. You know what I'm saying, guys? I don't think his career's earned that. He hasn't been in those movies where he's put on excellent performances every single step of the way. It's few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, it's more 40% critics rating. It's just fans love his movies. He's funny as shit. But yeah, he can turn in a good role. I personally liked him in this one. I thought in King Richard, I thought he was good. If you know the actual dad or seen videos, like spitting image, it's crazy. Like you really need to nail the head on the head with this, and he nailed it. But I agree too that his career does not like give him a boost in like getting these awards.
Right.
And I heard an argument. Somebody made an argument that Benedict Cumberbatch and Andy Garfield are both going to have more opportunities because they are younger than Will Smith is. I don't think that that's how we should judge these things. I think the Oscar should be a bubble. An Oscar should be a bubble. And if you look at past Oscars from the 30s, 40s, 50s, they're a bubble. Their performances may not hold up, but at the time they did.
Well, they have them every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
Exactly. And that's my point. Like, even Denzel's performance. Denzel's already got an Oscar. He doesn't need it. Even though he's amazing in that movie. He's amazing.
He's got two. Yeah, he doesn't need another one.
Exactly. He doesn't need another one. Andy Garfield should have won one for The Social Network. I'll die on that hill.
Well, he shouldn't have been nominated at least. Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I've been rooting for Andrew Garfield this entire time, and I kind of felt like Will Smith is he's gonna take it. But I'm still holding out a little bit of hope that they get it right. But I won't be mad if Will Smith wins because I like Will Smith, and it's not like it's like, you know, it wouldn't be horrible to me if he won. I wouldn't like throw chairs or anything.
Yeah, it's not
but yeah, right. But I agree. I'm behind Andrew Garfield all the way. Mary, what about you with some of the winners? Like, did anything stand out for you, or like, you know, what are your thoughts on that now?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really seen a whole lot of the films that that was in the Oscars nomination, except Tick Tick Boom. But from what I've watched of Tick Tick Boom, I actually kind of liked it because I know the story of Jonathan Larson, and he did an excellent job in that movie. And I was kind of surprised that he can sing. Actually, I was
yeah, I think we all were that he's the good singer.
And I've watched the trailer of all the other ones, like Coda. I was actually kind of surprised how good the trailer was, because usually a trailer and a movie are completely different. And like Owen said, you don't see a lot of death or hard hearing people in movies too much. You see more in like TV shows, like for example.
You don't really hear I agree with that.
For example, was CSI. CSI, for example, there was a deaf woman, and she was in like pretty much almost every crime show you can think of. I don't know her name, obviously, but she was so good in it. But to me, the deaf and hard hearing people, they should be in movies because they need that recognition.
Yeah, well, Marlee Matlin had talked about this. She was on The View last week promoting Coda before the SAG Awards. And, she was talking about how this movie is important because it's all about representation. For a long time, Marlee Matlin was kind of like the representative for a lot of them because, she won an Oscar for Children of a Lesser God. And she's the most probably well-known if you were to just kind of like pick someone off out of a lineup. And she was just saying that shouldn't be the case anymore. And the good thing about Coda is that it does put a spotlight on, a lot of actors who, are deaf or hard of hearing that, are still putting in good performance. I actually finally watched it and I was just blown away by how emotional it was. And it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter what language you're speaking or if you can hear, if you can't. The communication in it was just so emotionally powerful that I can see why it is getting all the attention that it's getting.
It deserves the recognition, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I don't I agree with William though. I don't think this reminds me of this is not a great example. Hidden Figures won the ensemble SAG Award, and it didn't win Best Picture because they're two different entities. And he's right. There's more of a producing body that's involved with the Academy Awards. Yeah. So that whole thing is, I think that's where Coda might slip a little bit. Yeah. I don't think it has enough producing strength behind it, even though I think it's a really cool showing from Apple to have a movie like that being being represented with a movie like that at the Academy Awards.
Yeah.
Because I just remember what it was like to have. It was such a big deal when Netflix tried to get in that game, and everyone was like, "No, you guys are a streamer. These are not real movies." And now everyone can kind of be involved in this.
Award season. The race.
The front runner for Best Picture is a Netflix film.
It's a Netflix movie. Yeah. So it's a really cool thing.
I want to ask you guys too. I mean, it's it's starting to get to the point. I mean, William, you even said it too, that you don't have any faith in the Academy. And it's kind of becoming a consistent point with everyone that I talk to saying that, they don't really trust the picks for the Oscars, and they don't really think that an Academy Award is necessarily the same prestige as it used to be. I mean, I feel like would a movie like Coda rather win a SAG Award than an Oscar? I mean, obviously, no matter what, it's nice to have that statue, but I feel like it just seems like people aren't necessarily taking those choices as seriously as they used to in the past. So I just wanted to see, what do you guys think about is winning a SAG Award or maybe even a Golden Globe or any of these other awards probably starting to become maybe more prestigious?
Well, I would say, let me ask you a question, Owen, because that's a great question. If you got an award from your people, let's say you're at your job and you got an award for Employee of the Month from people you work with, or if you were at work and you got an award for Employee of the Month from a bunch of random people that do the similar job to you, which one means more to you?
Obviously, the one that for people that I'm working with.
And that is what a SAG is. And that's to me why a SAG is more important. And for a film like this to win anything, I think is super important. With it being called ensemble, Coda's ensemble makes that whole movie. If you don't have that whole familial unit, it doesn't really work, Yeah. And so that's a great question. I think that's something to think on. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think that's interesting too, because I think that, I mean, of course, everyone wants, the people in that industry, they do want to win an Oscar, but I think over the years it's kind of lost its luster a little bit. And if I was an actor, right, I guess the highest kind of recognition is if I was given an acting award from my acting peers, if that's who's voting on it. So yeah, I feel like if I was in Coda's position, that would be a really significant win, and I'd be very happy with it. I'm sure the people that made it want the Oscar, of course, but I think a lot of these things have changed a lot over the years, though.
Especially too, because I've even heard when I've listened to podcasts with actors. I mean, if it's Smartless or even just watching interviews, they actually poke fun at people who have, or other actor friends who haven't won People's Choice Awards, and it's that's kind of one of those things that's kind of a pat on the back for themselves. It's listen, maybe I don't have an Oscar, but everyone liked my performance in this. And so I think maybe even that is something that people would not necessarily rather have instead of an Oscar, but it's starting to become like, hey, like whatever the actual audience is liking and wants to see, that's what I want to be recognized for.
Yeah.
It's as simple as just like comparing it to like the NBA All-Star game versus the All-Pro team at the end of the year. Fans vote the All-Stars.
Yeah.
Players and coaches vote the All-Pro. At the end of the day, it's like, ooh, I'm an All-Star, but I'd rather be All-Pro for my teammates and my colleagues that way. So it's easy, yeah, simple as that. With the having recognition from your actors rather than the general public.
Yeah.
I agree. I think the only one we didn't really talk about is, and I guess she is the front runner now, or she has been. Ariana DeBose. She's in West Side Story. She plays Anita. She won Best Supporting Actress. I think winning. I think the real cool thing is that like that was a role that Rita Moreno played in the original, and she won an Academy Award for that role back in the day. This could happen for Ariana at the Oscars, possibly. It would be a good 60 years to the moment, I guess, that Rita Moreno won hers. So that would be a cool kind of thing to happen. I don't really have like a dog in the fight for that category. I actually when I saw West Side Story, I thought she popped, and I thought she was really, really good in it. I would be happy with any. I mean, I don't really have a favorite, I guess, but I'm cool with it if she took it. And it seems like she might be taking.
Yeah, I think my favorite supporting performance from an actress didn't even get nominated, but of the ones available, I think Ariana's got the best chance to win. She's won everything else.
Yeah, she's kind of swept it.
Like for me, even though I've never seen the new one yet, but I have seen the old one. So, I mean, like I've seen the trailer, and I think she's excellent as that character. She kind of like she's not taking her spot away, but she's making her own in a way.
Yeah, that was a big thing that people took away from it, is that she didn't copy Rita Moreno. She really sold it on her own merits, and that's it's an iconic role, and she kind of felt it was a bit daunting to take it on, but she certainly did a good job, and she does steal a lot of her scenes in that movie. So I like you said, she's won everything else leading up to this, so I think it's hers to use at this point. But moving on from the SAG Awards, there are 2 trailers dropped today. One's for a movie. I at this point I feel like I've already seen it because there's been so many trailers. I'll just start with that one. Morbius released its final trailer today, and I'm crossing my fingers. I don't know. It's its final trailer after being delayed. After being, it was delayed several times because of COVID, and this last delay they didn't really say it was because of COVID. I don't know why they really moved it to April 1st. But then the release date April 1st, it just sounds like a joke. That's April Fool's Day, so I don't even know if it's going to come out for sure. Yeah. But it
actually doesn't exist.
The reason
it's not real.
I'm starting to think that's such a too.
The reason I know it's real is because they're finally releasing trailers with vignettes of interviews, like done up interviews. So like there's this new one where he's actually in the actor's chair, and then they go through the shot of the trailer. So that's when I know a movie is finally done, because they've finally done like the interviews with like for the behind the scenes and all that stuff. So I believe this movie's actually coming out, and I can't wait for it because it's just another little thing in the multiverse that we're gonna have to figure out.
All right, so I think Jack is the only one that's truly excited. I was for a little bit, and then it just kept getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and then I got like New Mutant Syndrome, and I just stopped caring about it.
I will say this: what was her name? Amy Schumer did a movie a few years ago. You guys remember what that movie was called? Bill Hader. Yeah, that's the same
Trainwreck.
That's the same movie we just saw a trailer for.
It's Trainwreck.
I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not a train wreck, but I'm excited to see the movie.
See the train wreck.
I think what I'm most excited for in that is the Chernobyl actor Jared Harris. I just really like everything that he's done, and
love that guy.
So whichever character he plays, I know he's going to put his heart into it, and just kind of interested to see if it's really worth all the hype. I mean, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of cool visuals. Maybe some images of Jared Leto biting people's necks and snorting everywhere, which I don't know. I don't know how to feel. But I don't know. I think it's going to be in the same category as Venom for me, where it's like a bunch of like 14 to 19-year-old guys are really going to go and want to see it, and then that's where they're going to make their money.
That's the demographic for sure. That is the demographic.
Yeah, edgelord. That's it. That's the demographic. Edgelord.
Yeah, that's exactly the demographic. It's so. I mean, like, I guess the one thing I'm excited about, I guess, is to see how they are going to try to connect things to the greater MCU. I guess because they are. I guess there's that.
There's Spider-Man blatantly. All right, here we go, boys and girls. Remember in No Way Home, where Garfield is talking about how he got bitter, started not pulling his punches.
Right.
Which implies that he actually either was seriously injuring people or killing people after, Gwen Stacy. In the first trailer of it, you see Morbius run down an alleyway in a jail onesie and a blanket, and on the side of the wall is what seems to be a Spider-Man. They could definitely change who the Spider-Man is, and it's just murderer across the side of it. So there's clearly a connection to it. So that's, again, like you're saying, that's my excitement really is like, how are you going to connect it? Because also you have Tom Holland villains in this movie.
Yeah, Michael Keaton was in this trailer a bit more too.
Yeah, he's also like in this movie. So there's really going to be some actual explanation for it. And God, I hope Kevin Feige just ran right into Sony and took the script and was like, we have all the time. We're going to push this back until I say it's right, because that's all I care about.
Jack has gone full evidence board. I appreciate your perspective.
He did. He was just missing like a pointer. I wish we could just see him like pointing to stuff. Like,
if the editors go back later, just move
ding on it.
Yeah, all the points. Yeah. So,
all right, I'm gonna
Pepe Sylvia. That's your Pepe Sylvia.
All right, I'm gonna throw this out there just because Jack's excited, so I'll just go in order. Owen, are you still interested in seeing Morbius?
I'm not paying money to go see it. I'll see it when it hits the service.
Boom, there we go. All right, Mary, what about you?
Same as Owen.
Yeah.
If I do see it, the only reason I'm going to see it is to see Michael Keaton.
Yeah, that's actually
the only reason why I'm watching
that. And that is the power of Michael Keaton, that she will go to just see like a brief moment of Michael Keaton.
That's great. He wasn't in the Spider-Man movie, so and then the second one, and that was the reason why I saw it. Besides Tom Holland, so
well, there we go. All right, what about you, William? Right, you call it the train wreck, so I'm assuming that you're not excited.
Listen, if there's a critics screen, I will probably not show up.
Yeah, you know, if work doesn't make me go, I don't know how I'm going to handle that.
I will say this though, I'm disappointed that they've had Michael Keaton now for a movie, and if he doesn't say it's showtime in this movie, I'm leaving.
And well, I'm actually. He might get to say it, because from what the trailers are looking like, it's Michael Keaton, Vulture, is kind of locked up, and Jared Leto just keeps going back to him to talk to him of some sort. He's like, like the devil on his shoulder or something.
So is he like he's like his Hannibal Lecter?
Yeah, I guarantee you there's going to be a scene in the movie where like it's that that Michael Keaton knows what's about to happen, but he's sitting in his cell, so he just like lifts his head up and just goes, "It's showtime," and then it cuts to Jared Leto going absolutely berserk at the end of the movie. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. All right, well,
that's the reason to watch the movie, guys. Is if he does the side head cock, it's showtime. Let's go.
That's a $60 million opening weekend if that happens.
That'd be a perfect moment.
80 million.
Perfect moment. Okay, well, maybe you guys feel better about this movie. Trailer dropped today for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. So yeah, I haven't been like too excited about these movies, but I know some people are. They haven't really like caught me the way the Harry Potter movies caught me. But the trailer did really well on our site today, so I guess there are people that are excited to see it, especially after the delay. It looks pretty entertaining. It's interesting that all these big movies are coming out like within weeks of each other because Morbius comes out on the 1st, and then this falls on like the 15th. So like after the Batman comes out, because Batman has all of March, then things kind of kick off a bit in April. But I guess the one thing that we can kind of talk about a little bit is of course Johnny Depp was originally Grindelwald, and now he was replaced because of real life situations with his ex-wife. But the actor who replaced him is a worthy replacement, so I'm cool with that. But I don't know. Are you guys? Are you? Yeah, he's so. I mean, just going back to Hannibal, I just loved him on that show. But are you guys excited for? Are you guys into the Fantastic Beasts movies or at all?
I am.
All right, there you go.
I've seen both of them, and I see all of Harry Potter, so I'm good. I can't wait for the third one.
Oh, there we go.
Go ahead, William. No, I was gonna say I'm just juxtaposed to Mary because I have never read a Harry Potter book. I've never seen any of the movies, and I refuse to watch any of the Fantastic Beasts films.
Whoa! You never seen one Harry Potter movie?
That's not even one. And
some of
them
them are very
partied with Daniel Radcliffe, my friends. I have and I still haven't seen those damn movies.
Dude, some of them are very good. Some of them are like really good. I've never read the books myself either, but some of the movies are pretty good.
Blasphemy. Pure blasphemy.
Only Harry Potter movie I didn't like was Half-Blood Prince. That's the only one I didn't
That's the one that a lot of people say they didn't like.
Is that the one that Karan did?
I got put off.
No, Karan did Prisoner of Azkaban. That was the one that's the one that made me fall in love with those movies because I didn't like the first two that much either, but Prisoner of Azkaban like made me a follower.
Christopher Columbus is a deterrent for a lot of stuff. I would say.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'll speak as an avid Harry Potter fan. I've read each book in the 8 to 10 times, so I've just been like such a huge fan my whole life, and love the movies. Just a huge fan of that story in general. It's just so well written and so drawn out over 7 books. But the Fantastic Beasts one, it's completely lost to me. I mean, the whole like wondrous and the like dreamlike sense of the wizarding world as they want to create really just got lost to me. I think the last Fantastic Beasts I saw at night, it was one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. No story, bad acting, not really a huge fan of the lead. I don't really think he pulls his weight in the sense that can really carry a franchise. I think they use a lot of cheap dialogue to try and draw Harry Potter fans in. But for me, it's just it's really hard, especially from someone who also really likes Jude Law. I mean, for me, that looks like a cash grab for me. And to me, it just seems like an excuse for them to make money off Harry Potter and just create new stories from things that really weren't a part of the books and weren't a part of this whole sort of franchise. And it's just frustrating to see sort of something that I loved turn into. I mean, it was like with the Hobbit movies. It's something that I really loved growing up turned into a bunch of CGI bullshit.
A cash cow, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
So you're saying Harry Potter turned into Marvel.
Oh,
wow. All right, I will stop at that because, like, what I will say is, like, the 7 movies, like the Harry Potter movies, that was the first movies that we really got as anyone in the film community as like perfectly connected, and it's spanning over a decade. To try and replicate that with then new books that are coming out as is, like look what happened with Game of Thrones. They went past the books and it all went to shit. So I really think that J.K. Rowling, when she wrote those books, she was doing a cash grab. Like, yeah, I'm just going to write another wizarding book because why not? Everyone loves a wizarding book. But then once you make it an actual movie and actually like try and show everyone, the mass population, that this is what the new Harry Potter standard is going to be, then it falls flat because there's not as much, I would say, as Owen is saying, there's not as much connected to the book, or there's not as much lore, or it's like cheap dialogue to keep Harry Potter's like, oh, they said it, or like Easter egg to one of the 7 movies where they have, you know, over 20 hours and stuff to reference. So I actually enjoy them in the sense that if I need to put on a movie to fall asleep to or like just buy time, I'll put that on. Because like if there's
the highest compliment.
Jack, Owen, can I ask a question? And Mary, as the Harry Potter fans in here, I got a couple questions for you. First one, do you think that these Fantastic Beasts movies are essentially the Hobbit to Harry Potter's Lord of the Rings?
No.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, I thought that I mentioned that when I was saying it. That is something that I think is a direct correlation. Just one of those things that they're looking to make money, and then they like expanded over multiple movies. It's like the Hobbit didn't even need to be 3 movies. It should have just been 1. I mean, it's such a small book in comparison to the Lord of the Rings, and like these Fantastic Beasts, like it's based off of a book that's basically a pamphlet that she wrote when she was writing Harry Potter as like sort of a fun thing to it just wasn't it doesn't have enough meat, or it's just basically bones. So
all right, that answers my question. I like that you answered my question, because I didn't know that it was just a pamphlet, and that makes a lot more sense now. The other thing, you guys, Alison Sudell's in this movie, and I'll tell you, she's the only thing that's making me want to see it, because she actually I never seen her in any movies because I haven't watched any of these movies, but she's actually a musician. If you guys want to hear some amazing singer-songwriter stuff, Alison Sudell plays Queenie. She had a band called The Fine Frenzy, and they're amazing.
I know Fine Frenzy. Oh wow, I didn't know that. I don't know why I didn't make that. I don't know why I didn't make that correlation. Wow. Oh, look at that.
Here for, man.
There you go.
Cool. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that at all. Yeah. I guess it is. They, because when the first Fantastic Beasts came out, it made a lot of money, and I think that was more like, everyone was like, oh, we kind of miss Harry Potter, and it felt so closely adjacent to it. I know the second one underperformed. It still made money, but it didn't do as well as they hoped it was going to do.
I have a big bet against the second one.
Oh, what's that?
Because it's obviously Warner Brothers, and I'll always try and connect it back to Justice League and Zack Snyder. They were basically Ezra Miller filmed his scenes for Flash during his off time at Fantastics, and that was like a huge fight between Warner Brothers. I feel that the second Fantastics got a little bit of the residual chaos that was happening in the Warner Brothers, hierarchy systems of that kind of delays and this and that and the scheduling.
That would make sense.
Then Johnny Depp and that and all this. So I think that unfortunately just kind of got hit by bad stuff. But yeah, I just think Warner Brothers really handled that poorly too.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're not known for handling things well at all. So whatsoever.
Ain't that the truth?
Whatsoever. The people in charge at the top of Warner Brothers are the most ridiculous people ever.
But the change is coming. The regime change is coming.
You just shake your head. Well, I don't know. Well, I mean,
literally typewriter monkeys.
Yeah, pretty much. And we're letting them be in charge of like producing movies. They just step on set. They're like, no, this doesn't work well. Well, how do you know? You don't even make movies. You're just money people.
They're like, there's not enough cliches in this movie yet. We need
Yeah, ridiculous. All right, well, if you guys are interested in that movie, it comes out on April 15th. It seems like Jack is the most interested of us. Again, between Morbius. Oh, I guess Mary's into it too. Mary's a Harry Potter junkie. You might have to.
To be honest, I have never read the books. I'm gonna be honest. I only watched the movies.
Disappointed, Mary.
Well, I remember the book.
Tell you that. So, and I have watched The Hobbit though, but it was too long for me. It was way too long for me.
Well, it's interesting because they made The Hobbit. They turned it into 3 movies, and they made each one really long. And they made each one really long, even though it was supposed to be like one solid, not that long book. And that was the very like definition of a studio, like, oh, we're gonna milk this for all it's worth because we did it with more than.
If I stretched anything that much, I'd tear my ACL.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, now we can get into the heart of what this episode is about, and this is about Zodiac turning 15 on March 2nd. The film was originally released on March 2nd, 2007. It's directed by David Fincher from a screenplay by James Vanderbilt, and it's based on the nonfiction books by Robert Graysmith, Zodiac and Zodiac Unmasked, published in 1986 and 2002. And the film stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, and Robert Downey Jr., along with Anthony Edwards, Brian Cox, Donnell Logue, and a bunch of other people. It's a stacked cast. And the film tells the story of the manhunt for the Zodiac Killer, a serial murderer who terrorizes the San Francisco Bay Area during the late 1960s and early 1970s. Before I get into just the bones of this movie, I do kind of want to ask everyone, and I'll start with Owen and then kind of work my way around. When you first saw it, and then what you thought of it when you first saw it.
I definitely saw it. Probably first time was probably about like 7 or 8 years ago, I would say. And it was just one of those ones that had popped up on Netflix, and decided to watch it. And my thoughts on this movie are, it really is just the perfect real life story to turn into a piece of film. It just has all of the elements of, there's guys, there's bewilderment, there's wonder, there's stabbing, and
Yeah,
it's unbelievable that this story is actually true. And so to be able to see it on film, I mean, obviously this was back in the 70s, so it's like just being able, like, just learning about the story and the case doesn't really do justice to how vicious they were, and how he really terrorized an entire city. And also just to kind of put code and bring a lot of thinkers together who could just basically go into the try and crack this thing on their own, and try and like hunt down someone for themselves. And I think that has all started to translate into like all these true crime podcasts where people are trying to figure out stuff on their own, and it's kind of become its own industry in general. So I think that it's just so well done. And I think the charisma and the coordination between each of the actors, I think Mark Ruffalo and Jake Gyllenhaal have such a great chemistry in that movie. I have my opinions about Robert Downey Jr. I think he kind of plays the same person no matter what. So
yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there for sure.
Very traditional personality that doesn't really change depending on what character he's playing. But I think that the chemistry of the actors is just so well done, and it's makes me scared. And that scene at the lake when those two people get hogtied and stabbed is one of the most chilling scenes I've ever seen. And it just makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. And the fact that it's silent and there's no music during it is just,
oh yeah, and it's in broad daylight too.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Jack,
Jack,
I love the movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. Jack, what about you?
Yeah, so my older brother was a good movie guy, so he actually took me to see it. So I actually saw it in theaters in 2007. Definitely didn't really know how to process it at the time when I was like 13, 14, but I knew outside of the lake scene that it was an insanely cerebral movie, that you can see from the beginning that obsession can take hold of anybody. And
right.
Watching Jake Gyllenhaal go from literally in the movie where his editor goes, he's a fucking Boy Scout, he's never had a drink in his life, to literally being so obsessed that he's like basically tracking the killer on his own, and the killer is onto him. I mean, it's wild to see that progression in there. And then on top of that, seeing the progression of San Francisco and Riverside, and kind of how all of it combined, because it wasn't just one city, it was basically all of California, because he kept going around and around. From what the movie says, there's other research that says that he's taken a lot of, claims for other killings, but that's the point, is that
right.
Like they showed the progression of how California like came over time. Like it became a smaller place with more people in it, or like they show you those great montages of the San Francisco being built over time with the skyscrapers and all that. So I just think it's a phenomenal movie about California. I think it's a great performance for Jake Gyllenhaal, because this is 2007.
Yeah.
This is an early Jake Gyllenhaal where he's still like, you don't really know who he is yet. And then the ancillary cast of like Robert Downey Jr., even though I agreed that with Owen that he can just do whatever the hell he wants. Because like no one's gonna go back and check if that writer was like that, because he's just an additive to the movie. So overall, phenomenally puzzling movie. And then, not to do it again, but it's the inspiration for the Riddler and the Batman. So I can't help but see like this. It's culturally still relevant to today. So it's phenomenal. Love it. We'll go into a little more.
All right, William, my man, what about you?
What do I think of Zodiac? It's long.
Yeah.
But it's really, really good. Like I gotta tell you, it's one of those things where you go into the movie, and I remember I saw it 15 years ago. I was still a teenager. God, I'm old. And I saw the movie, and I walked out of the theater kind of shaken by what I'd seen, because there's a real legitimacy to the violence of the film. Fincher's always very good at making everything look sterilized in his movies. Yeah, do you know what I mean? There's this like blue hue over everything, and but there's
Mindhunter.
Yeah, that's his style for sure.
I'll list his movies in a bit.
Yeah.
There's a very sterilized look to it, and it makes the violence seem much more of a the word I used already, juxtaposed to the goriness and the realness of the violence that's being portrayed in front of us. And I love the movie. I'm a huge Jake Gyllenhaal fan. I don't know. I heard somebody talk and blaspheme on my boy Jake Gyllenhaal. Nobody was doing that, right?
Love Jake Gyllenhaal.
I love him.
Yeah, we all
He's
do.
the man. No,
Yeah,
I think it was Jack that made the point about Robert Downey not really having a changing personality, or was it you, Owen?
No, it was Owen.
We both mentioned it. Yeah,
they both did. Yeah,
I kicked it off.
100%, you're right, Owen. 100% you're right, dude. He's Iron Man in every movie, and it doesn't matter what movie it is.
And
really
it's funny
annoying.
because Iron Man was a later role.
Yeah, it came a year later, right? Yeah, 2000.
Well, the reason for that is they cast him to fit the role. They actually wrote the script to fit him.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much, because he's friends with Jon Favreau. So it's one of those things. Like I just, with Fincher, there's always this thing in the back of your mind, like there's more to tell that you don't even see that's happening behind the camera. Kind of like he's giving you a Cheshire Cat smile behind the camera. Like you guys don't see everything that I'm seeing, and you never will. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Mary, what about you? When did you first see it, and what did you think of it when you first saw it?
Teacher, I don't remember exactly when, because back in 2007, I was in like 4th grade.
Oh, I hope you did see it then.
No, I waited years after that. I cannot remember. I think I was still a teenager when I saw it as well, and I just loved it. To tell you the truth, I watched it because of Jake Gyllenhaal, obviously, because he just is a fantastic actor, and that movie, that role was just meant for him. And let's see, I just thought it was a phenomenal job. That's all I can say about it, because it was a perfect close to accurate description of how terrifying Zodiac Killer was. I mean,
yeah, there's a real thing to be said about like David Fincher's like attention to detail when it comes to recreating a lot of that stuff back then. I mean, like him and the screenwriter like spending like 18 months like investigating it on their own before they even got into like making the movie. And I think this comes before everyone's truly like obsessed with like true crime stuff, right? Yeah. Like as far as like the masses. So like, it really is like kind of a precursor to that. And and I guess everyone in their own right, if they're like, even if they weren't a true crime junkie, like you knew a little bit or you heard about the Zodiac Killer. And like the big thing was like, he's never been caught. And, and right. And I think and we can talk about this a little later too. I remember when I first I saw it on opening night with a friend, and I loved it. David Fincher is my favorite director, so I knew I wanted to see it. My friend and I had two different ideas of what the movie was going to be, and he blamed it on the marketing, which I guess is true because I did watch some of the trailers today. It's marketed as almost like a Seven kind of serial killer type thriller, and it really isn't. Like it's more cerebral, and it's not like, I guess a little bit more procedural too. I mean, other than those like opening murders that kind of like take over like the first maybe 30 minutes of the movie, there's not a lot of that going on. And so like he didn't enjoy it because of that. Like there wasn't enough of that. But I was just caught up in like the kind of atmosphere that he was creating that made you feel like you were there and made you feel like that kind of fear. Like I wanted to piggyback off what William said. Like after it was over, I was legit shaken by it. Like I felt like a little frightened by it. And Owen talked about the lake scene. The lake scene still to this day, like it's hard for me to watch it completely because it's so it feels so realistic. It doesn't feel like you're watching two actors.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like it feel like you're watching a movie, and you know, like they were talking about how he did some of that stuff. Like he didn't want to use like practical blood and stuff because he didn't want to like clean off anyone's clothes in between takes, so it would take too long. So a lot of the blood is like CG, but like when you're watching it, I didn't even feel like I didn't even like notice it. I was just like, it's so like visceral in its like approach and how he elicits those fears out of you. I think that is where the movie really shines without having to kind of be a typical like serial killer thriller. And I know that like I think Warner Brothers and Paramount, because they co-financed it, I think they were, even though they let David Fincher do what he wanted to do and they gave him the money to do it, I do think there was this kind of like fear of like, okay, how do we market it? Because we know what it is. It's not Seven.
Yeah.
But how do we sell this to like a mainstream audience, right? And go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, no, I will make the point, and it's something that actually was just a completely different tear. But like trailers have come such a long way from then to now of what we would expect with the trailer. Like back in like 2000, there was a guy who did trailer voiceovers. Like he was the only guy who did, the only voice you heard. He was the guy who told you what was it about. Now it's literally like we're ready for a trailer that's going to give me all the Easter eggs. So from that standpoint, I feel that your brother's point, or even let's say it's your point, that there's no good way to make a trailer back then for this movie. If you could do it now, I bet someone on YouTube has cut a new trailer for this using footage, and it probably elicits the feeling that we actually get when we watch the movie, of that uneasy feeling. We're not watching this movie at resting heart rate, but we're not freaking out the entire time, which in the end is actually worse, because it's like I'm not going to be on edge for 2.5 hours rather than just scared once in a while. So that's where I think that the trailer comes into play with that, is just different times, but the chance to do it now would probably be
a little bit.
I want to go off of what Gaius, you and William, what you guys had said, is that the feeling that David Fincher gives you while you're watching the movie is really like, William, I really like what you said about that Cheshire Cat smile behind the camera, just because it feels like when you watch it, you feel dread in a lot of different areas. And when I rewatched it, I think my favorite scene that stood out to me is when Jake Gyllenhaal goes into the house towards the end of the movie. And with each second, he starts to realize, I might be in the house of the Zodiac killer.
Yeah.
And you could feel him getting more and more scared. And just there's a sense of terror where it's like, listen, this might have been the entire culmination of years of his life. But at the end of the day, it's not just, I'm trying to catch a killer. He could kill you. Like, that's the kind of thing where, regardless of his obsession, the realness of it just really starts to hit him, and he's like, I need to get the fuck
out of here. Yeah, that scene is interesting too, because the way I watched that scene, like I don't necessarily think that was really written to be like a scary scene, but the way that he goes about it, like you have to be in, he puts you into his mind space, right? Where you're slowly like realizing, like, I'm suddenly not, all right, I might not be safe. Yeah. And that scene doesn't really,
on paper, the scene doesn't really say anything. It's mostly just them walking through the house talking about files.
Right. And that's another thing too about the movie too, because like the studio had like a lot of issues with because you made the comment about talking about files and stuff, but they had concerns that there was too much dialogue, not enough action, and they were also concerned about it not having a real like conclusive ending, which is, Robert Graysmith, who Jake Gyllenhaal plays, he had his theory on who the Zodiac killer was, and that's who they go with in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think because of like DNA evidence now, they have said that he was not the guy. But that is it's based on his book, and that's the route they went. I understand studio concerns about it not having enough action to kind of move things forward, but like, I just thought he did enough to make you didn't need it. I was just so immersed in what he was doing.
Yeah.
That I thought it really moved along, and it's a long movie for sure. I think William actually pointed out that it was long, but I think it flows well though.
No, exactly. put it, it makes the movie flows so well between dialogue, montages, and like little tidbits, like when they're doing the interviews with all the random people, and like one of the guys is like hurt his left foot, now he's got a limp. Like quick 2-second thing, but what's the first thing you guys see when they first interview Lee Arthur?
Arthur Lee Arthur.
No,
Arthur Lee Allen.
Arthur
Lee,
interview Arthur Lee Allen. He's got a limp.
He's got a limp, yeah.
And immediately your mind goes, holy shit. Like I was paying attention when they were doing those, ridiculous montage. Like now it kind of adds to like, oh wait, that actually might be him. So like him putting those little tidbits all throughout the thing is great. Again, another one. And during the interview, the Zodiac watch. Like
the Zodiac watch,
it's unbelievable. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, there's another piece of evidence that, it's so circumstantial, but and for us, the viewer, it makes it feel like so real that he's it.
Yeah. Well, I do want to ask you guys, like, how do you, and I'll go with William first, like, how do you feel about making a quote unquote true crime movie when there's no real definitive, like, this is who did it. This is like, without a real conclusive, like, definite in that everyone would, be like, okay, this is what I thought it was going to be, or this is what it was in real life. Do you think that's a good idea, or do you think that was good that they kind of went that route, or because they gave him $80 million to make a movie like this, and I'm happy that they did. But there is a risk there. Yeah, there's a risk of doing something like this and not having a definite, like, finalized conclusion for moviegoers when they go to see it.
Bro, they gave him $80 million to make this movie.
Yep, $80 million
in 2007.
In 2007.
What?
Yep. But I want to ask any of you guys, like, what do you guys like? Owen, like, what do you think that it's a good idea to kind of go into making a true crime movie like this when there's no real definitive conclusion that will make moviegoers happy by the end of it? Because they want like definite answers, right?
Yeah. Obviously, that's one of the things that I think back in the day, there's always like either a good ending or you find out kind of what happens. I think that with movies and TV now, it's kind of starting to move away from that. The whole thrill of the Zodiac is the fact that he's never been found. So that in and of itself is part of the movie. So I think that aspect of it was exactly what I was expecting. I always love at the end of the movies like this where they do kind of put some words on the screen and kind of explain a few things, giving the backstory, kind of documentary style. But I think we started to kind of move away from that. And one of the reasons that I like to revisit this is because it's one of the first ones that I remember watching where there really wasn't a good ending. And now there's things like Black Mirror where the episodes aren't happy and they don't end well. And so I think that a lot of people are starting to kind of realize that they like things like that. But back in 2007, it was definitely a bold choice because people like to feel like a definitive answer. But I think that the way that it was done was well, and it held true to the story because that is the entire enticing part of Zodiac is that it's never been solved.
Yeah, and I also think like with moviegoers too, and I guess that's on them for thinking that they were going to get a definitive answer by the end of this. But I think a lot of them went in thinking that they were going to see like this definitive, like this is going to tell me like who the Zodiac killer was, and that's what they were going to get. And when they didn't get that, I think that's why the movie didn't perform as well when it first came out. Of course, I think it's found a life since then for people that love David Fincher stuff. But I think that was the problem for it back then, is that they were expecting something with a definite conclusion that would tell you like, oh, this is really the guy that did it. Like for sure they caught him and that's what they wanted. And that's what I guess that's the fault of like the moviegoers who expected that, because that's not really what it was selling. Even in those trailers that depicted it as being more of a fast-paced kind of serial killer thriller, I don't think that any of the marketing really said like, oh, we're going to really tell you who definitively like did this. We're just going to tell you a story about a period of time when this was going on and how it affected the city and how it affected the people working on the case and like the people living in that area at the time as well. Because it was just, it just created all this like mass panic. And I think that's what the movie's more about. And like more about the characters. We talked about Jack talked about Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal's really perfect for this because he does have like the Boy Scout kind of persona thing going on. But what we learn here and what we learn in like future films that he's done is that he's really good at playing like obsession and being a bit of unhinged. And we got a glimpse of that here in this role, and which made him really perfect for it. And
if you were to put like if you were to tell me that Jake Gyllenhaal's character then goes from being a cartoon writer to being a detective in the Prisoners, I would be like that's an exact like match to it because they're both obsessive in that way.
Yeah.
They deeply care. Like there's a personal like I need to figure this out. I need to.
Yeah. And the thing about Robert Downey Jr. is, I guess I kind of look at it because this was 2007, so this was pre-Iron Man, right? So I kind of try to view it as, he had his issues. He had done, he had been in movies and he had his issues and he was starting to come back, and so I guess I didn't really have like what they call like, oh, this is a Robert Downey Jr. performance. I wasn't really caught up in that until post Iron Man. So I do like him in this. I try to just view it as if I'm like remembering what I was like when I saw it for the first time and not so much, oh, how do I view it? How do I view his performance now after watching all the stuff he's done since? Which is, I guess, I agree, it's very similar, right? But yeah, that's but I still enjoy, I mean, I know there was some, I think the guy he played, the people that knew him, he wasn't necessarily like that. He was maybe a little eccentric, but he definitely wasn't Robert Downey Jr. Quippy, I guess.
Or drunk.
Or drunk, yeah, or that.
Yeah.
But I still think he was good. I still think he was good though. I know the cast has most notably Jake Gyllenhaal. When it David Fincher is known for doing a ton of takes, like a lot. And apparently he did like 70 some odd takes of like certain scenes. And Jake Gyllenhaal was like the main person who was kind of like, this is like too much. And he kind of like spoke out against it a little bit. And Robert Downey Jr. was like, he didn't love it either. But he was like, well, I can't really, if this is like what is going to come out of this, then I'll just accept it. Because I'm not the director. I'm just an actor. And I'll just kind of take it. Do you think that kind of like perfection though is necessary? Like, do you think it's necessary for a director to kind of command like 70 plus takes from his actors to get something right?
I think not get right because maybe he just has a lot of takes that he can then look back on with his editors and be like, at least I has a full range of them. Or is he the type of guy who's just going to be like, does 70 takes and be like, that's the one, fuck the rest of them?
I think he has a very specific mindset.
The latter, that's brutal. If it's the former, that's fair because you want to get as much as you can out of that character while you have him on set.
That's true. I think he probably just has a very specific thought of what he wants in his mind. And he probably has a very hard time saying that verbally. But once he finally kind of gets it right, then I guess he has that mentality where, I mean, I'm guessing, Jack, that it's probably towards the latter where he's like, nope, that's the one. That's the one I was looking for. Now let's move on.
Yeah.
Right. His exact, he said in an interview, he said, this is Jake Gyllenhaal. He said, you get a take, 5 takes, 10 takes, some places 90 takes, but there is a stopping point. There's a point at which you go, that's what we have to work with. But we would reshoot things on top of that. So there came a point where I would say, well, what do we do? Like, where's the risk in what we're doing? So I guess he kind of felt like, okay, we're doing all this. And then on top of that, we're going to reshoot stuff on top of this. And I know it can be easily explained as like an actor, like complaining about the work. But that can't be a lot. That could be very taxing. And depending on the kind of scene that you're doing, if it's a highly like emotional scene, then I don't think you don't want to do it 70, 80, 90 times. And like, and I guess as an actor, like, where do you like for yourself, like, do you even know which moment is going to be the good one if you're doing it that much? Like at all? Like, I don't know. It just seems a little excessive, but I mean, he does pull out the best from his cast usually.
I think that there's, I mean, when I watch his movies, there are rarely a bad performance. So I think he pulls out what he needs from them. They're getting paid millions of dollars, and if they have to do take, then that's their job, man. So I think that I mean they're widely successful. The movies are well received. Sorry that he had to shoot it a few more times, but that is what you're working towards, and the end goal is beautifully done. So I think that that's something that works in his favor.
Yeah. Also, to add on to that none of these cast members had any weight on set being like, nope, this is what I want to do, compared to Fincher, who before doing Zodiac has done Seven, The Game, Fight Club, Panic Room, then Zodiac. All of those are absolute thrillers and get incredible performances from. So it's not like Jake Gyllenhaal can be like, no, we're not doing this way, Fincher. Fincher's like, we're going to do it that way. And then
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, you know who defended David Fincher during the making of this was Mark Ruffalo. And he said, the way I see it is you enter into someone else's world as an actor, you can put your expectations aside and have an experience that's new and pushes and changes you, or hold on to what you think it should be and have a stubborn, immovable journey that's filled with disappointment and anger. So basically he's saying, like, it's their world, we're living in it. Stop complaining.
Yeah.
and just do the work.
Yeah.
But I mean, like this, like the end result for most of his movies, like not just this one, like Social Network 7, you know, Panic Room, like all of the stuff that he's done, the attention to detail and like getting exactly what he needs, it pays off for, I think, everyone that has appeared in his movies.
Yeah.
For the most part. Just speaking on the film comes out. I think there's certain expectations of what it was supposed to be. Critics loved it. It got a lot of good reviews. There was a push for it to get Oscar nominations. It didn't get any.
Really?
Which is surprising. I was really surprised that it didn't. I want to go back and look it up, and it did not. Even though it ended up in 2007, it was on 27 top 10 lists that year. And the only movies that were on more lists that year were No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, who both got nominated for Oscars.
All heavy hitters.
Yeah.
That's a tough lineup.
That is a tough lineup, yeah. And like the thing is too, it even though it has an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, like you could tell that the audience wasn't totally invested because it has a B- cinema score. And like the cinema score is what it gets voted on, like from opening night audiences. So that's how they felt. And I think that kind of goes back to, again, like what your expectations were when you went to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of like what kind of movie you were expecting, I guess. And even though I may have thought I was getting something a little bit more like intense, like frequently intense, I was still happy with the end result, just as, you know, a fan of his and as someone that loves those type of movies. It's just a well-made, like just a well-made thriller in general. I mean, even if you want to call it like a slow burn, which some people don't like, you know, some people need like instant satisfaction.
Yeah. I mean, I've started to like those cerebral burns more as I've gotten older. Like Jack, you mentioned Prisoners. That's one of my favorites that has, I would say, a little bit more sort of gritty action in like just a very raw sense. But
Jackman?
Yeah. But I mean, those movies now I think are some of my favorite because it actually gets me invested in how they're feeling and the mindsets of these detectives and the family members or the people who are just scared in general. So I think that those are starting to become like my favorite type of thrillers, not necessarily the ones that is just kind of back-to-back action where it's, I guess that's more of like an action thriller. But these ones for me are just like a very, very in and of itself perfect thriller.
Yeah, they get in your head a bit more. That's why I like about them more. Yeah, William, I want to ask you too, because we were talking about this a little bit about the David Fincher and multiple takes. Some of the actors complained about it, like Jake Gyllenhaal did, and Robert Downey Jr. did a little bit.
Listen,
you're like, just deal with it.
Listen, they can complain all they want. At least it's not, Shelley Duvall in The Shining. Okay.
Yeah, that's the biggest example of making someone do something over and over again when they don't want to do it.
The point is, it got it right. And I wanted to say to Owen's point about thrillers, I love deliberately paced thrillers because the point is to be thrilling. And Hitchcock understood this. All his movies are deliberately paced. They're not super fast motion. They're not moving 900 miles an hour. It's just the contemporary audiences don't like to watch that a lot of the times, the deliberateness. But I think that watching Fincher or watching a guy like PTA put something together, they do things at the speed they want to. And if you don't like it, don't watch their movies. They don't care.
Because it's going to get critically acclaimed regardless.
Exactly. Yeah. And people are going to like it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they know there's certain directors that have a fan base that they know will see their stuff no matter what. And I think they kind of not cater to their fan base in like a like pandering kind of way, but like they know who their movies are made for. Like P.T. Anderson can like take a big break in between movies and then release something, and then like people are going to go see his stuff because they respect his work.
Listen, people like Licorice Pizza, and
yeah, they do.
I did.
Yeah, a few people didn't. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a testament of like David Fincher's talent. I was surprised that this movie only made, I think it made $33 million in the States. And it ended up making $84 million worldwide, but that's they said $80 to $85 million budget. So it lost money. But I was surprised that it didn't do better. And there could be a lot of examples as to why it didn't. I mean, why do you guys think it didn't perform as well when it first came out? Is it the length? Was it just expectations? Maybe competition?
No, well, what were the other movies out at the time for that week?
Oh, let me look at that weekend and
because
really quick.
Barring that, definitely just the culture of movie going. Like if this was made and when True Crime was popping podcast, this would be insane.
I actually have the info right here in front of me. If you guys want to know,
hit me.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
The same weekend Zodiac came out, Black Snake Moan and Wild Hogs came out. Wild Hogs made double the money of Zodiac.
Okay, well, that ensemble cast is pretty damn hard to beat. Right?
That's definitely competition.
Martin Lawrence, Steve Buscemi,
John Travolta.
John Travolta, and fucking
Tim Allen.
Paul Mart, the mall cop.
Kevin James.
That was a hot take, but yeah, I just don't think that people really gravitated towards the subject matter at the time.
That makes me so sad. That is what won the weekend.
I think what makes it sadder is that I still know the stars of the movie Wild Hogs.
By the way, I actually love Black Snake Moan. I did not know that came out the same weekend, and I saw both probably opening weekend.
Yeah, I did see Black Snake Moan. It's great.
Yeah, I love that movie. So yeah, you think it's just the timing? It just wasn't the right time for the movie, and if it would have come out during the whole craze of true crime podcasts and everything, it might have performed a little bit better.
I think it was before its time.
I guarantee you, the first weekend it was available on Netflix, it was probably one of their top performing fucking movies. Guarantee it. Because no one saw it in a while. So gotta watch Zodiac again. Guaranteed it. If you could find that information out.
Yeah. You know, Owen, you might have been right. It might have been ahead of its time because, like, there weren't a lot. I mean, there were, of course, serial killer thrillers out, but like,
yeah, I looked this up, and you know what came out the next week, guys?
Well, what?
300.
Oh, 300. Oh, that's. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Boy, Zach, right there.
So that's why Zodiac got buried.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Blades of Glory came out at the beginning of April, and that just destroyed everything for like the solid entire month of April.
That was a fantastic movie.
Wow.
Man.
That was back when comedies were making money.
And they were good.
Yeah.
And they were actually good, yeah. I would say now that like Zodiac has probably it definitely found its life post its theatrical run. I know there is a director's cut that's longer. I've watched it. It didn't change the movie completely for me. It's still good, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference in my opinion. Others might feel differently. I know that like a movie that's already 157 minutes, I can't imagine a studio being like, okay, well, we'll release your longer cut to see what happens.
Have we spoken about how good Jake Gyllenhaal is in thrillers?
He's really good in thrillers.
Yeah.
And I think this started it. I think this kind of like
Nightcrawler is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Nightcrawler is an incredible film, and I usually on my letterbox put my favorite film of every year, and my favorite film of that year, that it came out in 2014, was Nightcrawler. It's so goddamn good.
He has such
I love that one.
He does such a great job as like really diving into the character and making it different as compared to the Robert Downey Jr. He really changes in a lot of his different roles, and one of the ones that's a little bit of a sleeper too is I thought he did such a great job in Nocturnal Animals.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up.
I love that movie.
That movie is like, Gaius used the term visceral. That is a visceral movie right there.
That movie is everything, and it's so fucking stylish too. Like Tom Ford is a great director.
He's Tom
So
Ford. Have you seen the suits he makes?
I know. He makes great clothes. He makes great movies. I love Nocturnal Animals, and yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko is another. Yeah, he's really good at playing like off kilter, weird people.
Yeah.
Even The Guilty was a sleeper for
That
me
was
last year.
one. Like I think Donnie Darko for me was like the first one I ever saw of him. Besides another one called Boy in the Bubble Boy.
Bubble Boy. That's
Yeah,
Bubble Boy's.
that's a
don't
weird
talk
film
about
he
that.
did.
We
We don't talk about Bubble.
Yeah.
William, I
thought
just watched
you
The
missed
Guilty.
it.
Yeah,
It's
The
like
Guilty's
one
good,
of the
right?
things he Never did.
Yeah, I just watched The Guilty within the last couple weeks, and definitely not what I was expecting. Because it kind of came onto my radar right as commercials for Ambulance were coming out, and so I actually switched both of them, and I was like, wait, so he's a call operator, but then he goes and does something else. Like I was not expecting it to be in just one set basically the whole time.
Yeah.
But I mean that movie's got some twists and turns. I was on the edge of my seat for sure.
I'll tell you, it's Fuqua's best work in a long time. He's really struggling right now for me. So yeah.
Yeah, he was really good.
You guys are saying that this movie started his thrillers, but you're really forgetting that The Good Girl was a thriller, and it's really fucking good.
It is good. I like that.
I've actually never really thought about The Good Girl as a thriller. I guess in hindsight.
You can say Jarhead was his, come to light.
End of watch.
Well, it's interesting because Zodiac came out in 2007.
Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain. So yeah, Zodiac came out. Yeah, Zodiac came out in 2007. So before that, 2005 was Jarhead, and then also 2005 Brokeback Mountain. But he was like in between doing really good movies and then like commercial movies, like he did Day After Tomorrow in 2004.
When did he do End of Watch?
End of Watch. 2012.
2012.
Good God,
that's such a good one.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he did Brothers in 2009, which is also a pretty.
That's also really good.
Movie.
Yeah,
Enemy is good too, and that's Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, it is, and like
It'd be one of the most confusing God-starred movies ever.
You're not wrong.
Which one?
It's the one with all the spiders.
The one with the spider sex.
Metaphorically, I don't know, dude. I don't know.
And William, I think William, you talked on Robert Downey Jr. You got it. I was saying earlier that like since this was pre Iron Man for me, I watched it a little bit differently. I guess that he wasn't like purely the Robert Downey Jr. that I know like now. I guess so. I guess I kind of view the performance a little differently, but I see what everyone's kind of saying that he has like a certain shtick that he sticks to.
Yeah, I mean that's Downey's shtick. He just had this sarcastic smartass, but the problem is it doesn't work in a setting. He thinks it just does. It's a copy paste kind of thing where he's running it at every single movie. Like it doesn't work in The Judge, and he tries to run it in The Judge, and against Duvall's performance, it doesn't work, dude. It just doesn't work in everything. And he thinks it does, and it's unfortunate because I think the guy does have talent. I mean, if you've seen Chaplin, you understand Robert Downey Jr. definitely has talent. Yeah,
he does have talent. Yeah, he has immense talent. And then I know we didn't really talk about Ruffalo a lot, but he also is very good in this movie. I think Owen mentioned Mark Ruffalo earlier.
This is the performance that made me really like Mark Ruffalo.
Ruffalo's good in everything.
For me, he was just, he was like kind of a rom-com star, honestly. Before
good rom-coms, though, Owen. Good rom-coms.
Great rom-coms. Yeah, good rom-coms. But his performance in this just really showed the toll that it takes on a person when. I mean, even just my favorite scene in the diner when Gyllenhaal's asking him about any updates on the case. And he's like, listen, we have 300 murders like this last year in San Francisco. We're still working on it, but I don't know, just the way that he bounces off the other characters and his delivery of the lines is just unbelievable, especially in this performance.
Yeah, he has a great like everyman quality. Like it's hard to not like him.
Yeah.
And that's a mix of like likability and just being purely talented. And he brings that to everything that he's in, I think. And he definitely brings it in this movie too.
My other favorite performance from him is in Spotlight, I would say.
Oh, I love Spotlight. Spotlight's great. Spotlight's really good. As far as you guys, as far as where this ranks, I mean, I'm sure like you've seen a few David Fincher movies, but like, do you think that this is his best, one of his best? Like, where do you kind of throw it in his filmography?
I would probably say that it's definitely top 5 for me. I think The Social Network is better. I think that Fight Club is better just because it has maybe a little bit of a better story and it's more of an original idea. But I think that this is definitely up there just in terms of the cast that was able to get brought together. And like I mentioned earlier, it's such a great telling of a real story. There's obviously some fiction that's been added into it just to dramatize it, but
Yeah, obviously.
I think that he pulled it off really well and made me feel everything that I was supposed to feel by watching it. So it's definitely in the top 5.
Right. What about for you, Mary? How do you kind of his movies?
Well, the only two I saw was The Social Network and Zodiac. But for me, when I watch films, I don't look at the directors too much. I always look at the actors.
Okay.
That's the way I think. But I mean, I kind of agree with Owen that The Social Network was a little bit more better than Zodiac because that was also based on kind of like I guess you said true events of Facebook. But I mean, another thing about Social Network, the only reason why it did so well is because obviously Andrew Garfield and I can't remember what other guys.
Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg.
Yes.
And Aaron Sorkin had a lot to do with it.
Aaron Sorkin is probably why it's so good.
And it was a perfect. That movie's a perfect storm of like a great director and a great writer coming together.
Yeah.
Like that's and so I'll let Jack go about where do you kind of rank it, and I'll tell mine.
It's a difficult one, man. Like you look, like Owen says top 5, so I'm gonna use that as a top 5, and like there's movies in here that I have to put in. Gone Girl's one. Social Network is two.
Gone Girl's
in no specific. This is in no specific order. This is just movies that I'm saying out loud right now. Gone Girl, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Social Network, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Zodiac, Panic Room, The Game, and Seven.
Yeah,
out of those movies, personally for me, it's really hard to say Zodiac is a top 5. I mean, if anything, I'd say at most, I'm saying it's 4 or 5. I'd have to say Fight Club gets number 1, Fincher. 2 for me, Social Network. 3, Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I'll give Zodiac the 4 nod and Gone Girl 5. But like, they're all essentially the same kind of like not thriller movies all the way through the whole entire way. So I love them all, but like he's done some really freaking good fucking movies, man.
Yeah, he has. This one is hard because like, he's my favorite director, and like the list kind of changes a lot. 7 is still top for me. I think that's still like the experience of seeing 7 for the first time. It still kind of repeats every time I watch it. Like it feels like I'm watching it for the first time every time I see it, and that feeling of like shock and like awe, like what's going on. But honestly, the 2 I won't do the whole top 5, but because the number 2 slot it switches between Social Network and this, depending on my mood.
Nice.
And I just think that I just think Zodiac is so like strong, and I really, I mean, I guess people appreciate it now. I kind of wish like when I talk to like a lot of other people about his movies, some people don't even name it as like they kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
when it gets brought up to them later, they're like, oh yeah, he did do that, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, I liked it. And it's kind of like a passing, kind of like, oh yeah, that one. But I kind of hate that it gets lost in the shuffle of some of his stuff. I mean, I think it's probably one of his strongest pieces of work. Just the attention to detail alone of him just recreating that whole like time space in general was just so good. And I don't know, you can't go wrong with him, like Jack said, because like when you were naming all his movies, he hasn't really made a bad one except for Alien 3, but that's not really a part of that. That's not his fault.
And I'm not even mentioning my favorite thing he's done, which is Mindhunter, because he's also a phenomenal producer writer. Like,
right,
Mindhunter is amazing.
It's actually perfect right now. If we're talking about like comparing like why Zodiac didn't do well in 2007 to why Mindhunter did well in 2017 to 19 is the exact same. They're perfect. They dissect the mind of the thing. They have puzzles in it. Obviously, no one got to interview Zodiac, but like you still got that like on the edge of your seat the entire time. Blue hue, as Will pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
Always got that.
That blue hue.
I just think it's great. But yeah, like Mindhunter, amazing. And when I watch Benjamin Button, I get the same feeling that I'm watching it like, for the first time every single time.
I don't have 3 hours to sit down and watch Benjamin Button.
So what? Yeah, I love like
You
Owen's
should make
reaction.
the time because it's a great movie. You should make
Oh,
the
I've
time to
seen it, and once is enough.
And then like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, another like phenomenal. Like if he just ratcheted up all the investigation a little bit. That's exactly it. It's phenomenal. Like it can go on and on. These movies are phenomenal.
And I know Williams that he's doing this from work actually, guys. Because I know he's been coming in and out. But if you want to, where do you rank this? Where do you rank this on like your Fincher list?
That's a great question, guys. I'll tell you, Evan is also my favorite of his films. I think it's just well done. The one thing for me that keeps Zodiac out of 5 spot for me is Vanderbilt's script it has too much going on. There's too much in it. You know, at times it's wordy, but not in the good way like Aaron Sorkin. It's a bit too wordy, you know what I mean? And the characters seem long-winded, and oftentimes they meander through scenes. That's both a damnation of Vanderbilt's script, but also a little bit on Fincher because he could tighten it up a little bit. Social Network's definitely my top 5. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, mine too.
I'm a huge Sorkin writer. I'm a huge fan of Sorkin as a writer. I think Zodiac's probably 6 or 7. I'm a huge fan of Benjamin Button. I love that movie. I'm a sucker for romance, and I love romantic movies. And Benjamin Button is truly a romantic film, and I love it.
Yeah, it is. Agreed.
Yeah, he makes so many great movies. It's hard to put them all together, but I think that it's outside the top 5 for me. But obviously, since he's only made like 12 top 10.
I think we can all agree that he's never made a bad movie except for Alien 3, but that's not his fault.
I think that's accurate. I think that's very accurate.
It's not his fault.
I bet he could take that one back too.
Oh, he definitely does. He does not have kind words about that experience. And I think that almost like, because he was a music video director, and I think that kind of initially soured his desire to want to work in Hollywood like that on movies, because that was such a shit show. But thankfully he did not sour on it.
All the great directors are music video directors, actually, guys.
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true. Because
my favorite director of all time is a music video director.
Who is it? ...
Spike Jonze.
Spike Jonze. Yeah. Spike Jonze is a music. Yeah. I always forget. Yeah, because like music videos, they have such a visual medium in general, because that's how they have to tell most of their story for the song to image and all that. So they tend to be really good directors.
My favorite movie of all time is directed by a music video director as well. I'm a huge fan of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Michelle Gondry.
Love that movie. Oh God, I love that movie.
So when I tell you music video directors are where it's at, it gives me hope that Mark Romanek, who does have 2 features under his belt, will keep making great movies, and maybe Mark Webb will get back on track because they're also really good music video directors. And then I forget the girl's name. She directed Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, but she's also a music video director.
Music video director.
Really good too.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I kind of forgot about most of these names. Jesus.
Floria Sigismondi. That's her name. It just came in my head.
There you go. Well, I mean, I think that we all kind of, the good thing about this movie is that even though it didn't do the business they thought it was going to do back then, like a lot of like movies like this, they become, I don't know if I would call this like a cult classic, but it definitely like found like its groove and its audience, as time went along. And then people appreciate it for, even if you were to put it at your number 5 on like, or on your list of Fincher films, it's still a really great, solid movie and better than like most of the things that certain directors are cranking out. And and I also don't think, I can't imagine anyone else kind of tackling the subject matter. I mean, I'm saying that now just because I just can't think of anyone that would make Zodiac work as well as he did. I think I guess he could have done it.
Matt Reeves.
Oh, well, he's kind of doing it now. I guess like with the Batman, he's kind of doing that style. Yeah, I guess he could have. But like, I don't know. I think David Fincher was the right guy for it, and I'm glad that he did it. And I'm glad he gave us this little gem of a movie 15 years ago.
Yeah, I'm glad that he we're talking about it now. I mean, like you said, Gaius, I think it definitely found its calling. And with what Jack said too, with Mindhunter, that's all the rage now is true crime. I'm deep and sucked into it too. So being able to revisit this movie is always fun and very chilling.
Yeah. I want to.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Me, Zodiac actually was the one movie that got me interested in the Zodiac killer case as well.
So yeah, that's a good thing too. I mean, like we said, this kind of like is the precursor for what the true crime stuff kind of became. And I think movies like this, I know that it made me more interested in it because I knew certain things about it. And then of course you learn more after you watch a movie like this. And you want to learn about what mistakes were made, like why couldn't they catch him? How did they ever get close to catching him? Like, all the people that they suspected of being him. There's that one, before we wrap this, the one thing that always has gotten me about the real case is after he kills the cab driver, which they show in the movie, they had an opportunity to stop him.
Yeah.
But the descriptions of him, like they were saying like, no, they weren't describing like a white man this height, whatever. They were describing like someone completely different. And that's how he was able to like get away. So like,
I think it's a black male that they thought.
Yeah, they thought it was a black guy. That's what they were describing. So he was able to like get away. So like it's so crazy how like close they were at certain points because a lot of these guys, like if you watch the true crime stuff, a lot of these serial killers get cocky and they want to be well known, recognized, right? So if they feel like they're being ignored, they do more to be recognized. Yeah. And with him, I think he got off on like the fact that they were so close at certain points to getting him, and they didn't.
He said that in his code. He's like, "You guys should have had me." He's like, "You guys are dumb. I walked right by the cops."
And not only did he made like a whole group of people feel stupid. It was like the investigators, the media, like all these people that could have like kind of worked cohesively together. Because sometimes like the media and law enforcement and all that, they can when it comes to like putting information out. Like both of them were kind of inept at like handling it, and like that. And you get a sense of that from the movie too. That like the ball was dropped so many times, and he could have been caught so many times, and it's crazy. And like it's probably, other than like they ended up catching the Golden State Killer, but I think other than that one, that's probably like the Zodiac Killer is probably one of the biggest unsolved cases.
The most infamous serial killer case,
right?
Besides like Ted Bundy. I mean, it's just because it was unsolved. That's why it's up there,
right? Yeah. And I'm still calling this unsolved too, because I know that I think it was last year when someone said that based on like something that they found that they think they actually found the Zodiac Killer, but then that story like died too. So I'm still just gonna.
There's actually a History Channel TV show where one guy believes that he is like the son of the Zodiac
Killer.
It's disproved that he's.
It's all hearsay now. I mean, it's so long ago. I don't believe any of that stuff anymore.
I don't believe it either. I mean, at this point, the homie's probably dead, and I don't mean to call him the homie. He's not the homie. He did bad things, but I was just trying to. He's not alive anymore, most likely.
Gave us a good movie.
he gave us we got a good movie out of him. And I want to thank Mary and William for coming on and talking about this with us, and Jack as well. I always forget to thank Jack, but he's like part of the kind of the group. But thank you for coming on and talking about this movie. And you know, it's one of my favorites, and I'm glad that we got to kind of revisit it. I can't believe it's 15 years old. That was like when I was going down the list of anniversaries, I was kind of shocked that it was this old, and it made me feel old. A little bit.
Every day, brother. I feel old.
I know.
I was in fourth grade, so when it came out, so
yeah, I know. Mary's like
really
in fourth grade. Like, definitely shouldn't have watched it. I'm glad you waited till you were at least a teenager.
yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, I love the movie so much. I'm glad that we were able to talk about it. And before I get Owen to kind of sign us off, we're gonna kind of start talking about the stuff we're doing in the coming weeks. You know, next week we have the Batman discussion. Someone's clearly excited.
Aren't we all?
Someone's clearly excited. Which will, and yeah, and that episode will just be the Batman, because I'm sure there will be a lot to unpack out of a 2 hour and 55-minute movie. I'm still figuring out what day I'm going to go see it. I could maybe try to work out something with Owen and Jack to see when they want to go see it.
Yeah, hit me up.
So we can all go together. Maybe like an early like Saturday, and then we can go like drink after or something.
Good to me.
Not everything has to involve drinking.
God. Well, whatever. Calm down. Yeah, and then yeah. So then we have that coming up next, and that should be fun. And hopefully we enjoy it. The early reviews are pretty good. There are some reviews that are calling it mopey and emo, but I haven't read all those.
I like mopey and emo. Give me mopey and emo all day, baby. Hawthorne Heights the movie.
What?
Let's go.
Oh God, we're not getting into this. Nope.
All right, wait. We'll save it till next week. Maybe if William's not busy, and he has seen it, he can jump on too. But yeah, this is fun, and as always, Owen is gonna sign us off.
Yeah, guys, just want to say thanks again for coming on. It's one of my favorite things to do on a Monday night, talk about fun movies and revisit some ones that I've gotten a chance to watch multiple times. It's great to hear some good insight, and just really enjoyed what you guys had to say about it and all of your comments. It was really good to hear that. So again, just a great episode. Fun to talk with you guys. We are on Spotify. We're a playlist original. And we're continuing to have a lot of content that's going to come out soon. We have a long schedule of things we're ready to talk about. So continue to tune in. Want to thank all the listeners. We're on Spotify. I think Apple is still our top.
Still our top one.
Still our top one that people are listening to. My camera wasn't working today, so if you want to see Mary and Gaius on YouTube, you're more than welcome to tune in and see them on YouTube. My place will be there. But just want to say thank you guys so much. So appreciate it. We'll come back next week for some more.
Subscribe, share.
Yeah.
Subscribe, rate, listen, share, do all that good stuff.
Give them all the thumbs ups.
Thumbs ups.
Yeah.
And if you're on YouTube, I hope you guys appreciate the new background. I actually think this is a better setup than what I was doing before.
It looks great, guys.
And it's a lot better. So yeah. Thank you guys. It's been so much fun. And until next week. Peace.
Sounds good.